You read the title, you saw the thumbnail, so you know that we're gonna get to some track-oriented performance parts here. So let's get underway and install this very well-needed performance part on the Civic SI. Welcome back to A.S.A.P Garage with your boy Dro. So we finally completed the suspension segment on this vehicle and moving now to what I call the exhaust segment. And with that being said, you see what we have here. We're gonna be installing the Skunk2 Alpha Header and removing the stock one that the car comes with. This is a very well-known track-oriented performance part, and this is going to give us performance gain immediately when it comes to the mid-range section of the power and when it comes to throttle response. The reason why this gives us a increase in power is going to basically go from an individual exhaust outlet of 4 tubing down to 2 tubings, which is 2 cylinders matching up together, down to 1 and then out through the exhaust. That is basically a high flow header, giving us more power and more throttle response. It's called the Tri-Design 4-2-1 Alpha Header. So as you can see in the video, this is a very well-designed piece. The welding is very good. The piping is very good, and it doesn't weigh as much as I thought it would. It also has the design where it removes the cap, so you don't need to run a catalytic converter with this. Thus, it brings the extender to basically get your upstream O2 down lower to where the catalytic converter comes, or where it's supposed to be placed with the extender. It also has an adaptive flange where you could run your exhaust no matter the size. It could be a 2.5 outlet exhaust to a 3-inch, and it also comes with a defouler and some gaskets, so that way you don't get the check engine when you install this. You might still get the check engine, but you would have to tune this vehicle in order to run this header anyways, and you could shut it off when you get that check engine. I don't want to touch it so much because when you touch it, you put your fingerprint on it, and as it heats up once installed, your fingerprints will show through on top of the header. Not like it matters, it won't show, but I want to be pretty clean when it comes to installing this exhaust, and I don't want to see that. What I do recommend is to upgrade the gasket that the kit comes with, because the Honda one, the OEM Honda one, if you get an S2001 or a Ep.13 Civic SI gasket, donor gasket, is much thicker, like I'm showing here in the video, than the original one that the part comes with. The donor gasket that I use is the S2001. The part number is 18229-PCX-003. And don't forget, anytime you're changing your header, no matter the brand, make sure you get a new gasket for the header. And that part number is 18115-PNB-003. You don't want to use your old gasket or you're going to have a leak. Also, if you use the Skunk2 donut gasket that it comes, you might witness a small leak after using it for a long period of time. With the original Honda one, you won't get that. That's what I read in forums, so I upgraded the donut gasket there. So this repair is not going to be an easy one. I have installed headers on this car before. I did the Vibrant header when those were being made, and it's not an easy repair or installation at all. You have to go from the top area and the bottom of the car, especially if you're doing it on the ground. It is a hassle. So with that being said, we're gonna get to this installation, and we're probably gonna be doing this the full day today. let's get to the front of the vehicle. We're going to start from the top of the car, and I'll see you there. So we're going to start from the top of the car in the engine bay. To get behind the engine, take off the heat shield from the header and remove the it's 2 nuts and 3 bolts that is connecting the header to the engine. That's where the difficult part comes in. If those bolts are rusted, then it's going to take me a while to remove the heat shield on that. The second difficult part is getting the header out from the bottom of the car, which we'll get to that in just a couple minutes. But first, we have to remove this cowling piece. It's the heat shield that's on the top of the engine. It's also used for struts. It's like a strut stability for the chassis. We're going to remove that. That has about, I would say, 9 bolts that we have to remove, 4 on each side and 1 in the middle area where we have to reach under the chassis or under the glass. Once we remove that, we can get to behind the engine. So let's get to that part there. Something in the air. I know you want me. Something in the air. I know you want me. Something in the air. All right, so bolts are out. Let's see if this moves. Yes, it does. So I broke 2 bolts, 1 in each end. They were overly torqued, and this is what happens when you work on cars. But whatever, I could still mount it back on here, and it will stay still because there's only 1 on each side. But this will come out pretty easy after that. This is the heat shield or stabilizer for the chassis, strut mounts and stuff like that. So we're going to put this aside, and now we're going to be able to get to the back area of the header. So I'm going to look in here to see what I need to remove. I see that we have 2 bolts on the top for the heat shield and 1 at the bottom. I'm going to give you a closer view of that. So we're going to come from this side and get to removing the heat shield that's protecting the firewall from the stock header. It's a tight squeeze, so you want to get a good angle here. All right, so we have to move under the car. We remove the 2 bolts from the top area, which is holding the heat shield. There's 1 more bolt, but I can't get to it unless I remove the cat and the O2 sensors that are connected to it. I'll show you that once I remove it. And I have to remove the 3 bolts that are attaching it to the Yonaka exhaust, motorsport exhaust. So let's get to that, and I'm going to time lapse this. All right, so I'm gonna try to get to the two bolts that basically are holding the header together with the second portion of the header. So that's this whole section here with the cat. And then I'm gonna try to see if I can get the heat shield off. We already got the O2 oxygen sensor off. I got the exhaust removed from the catalytic converter, and I'm gonna try to get to those two bolts. So let's see how I can get to that. So we have here the cat removed. So you can see for the cat removed. So now I have to remove the header part, the half part of the header, which is this right here. But for that, I have to remove a couple brackets that are there. That's one of them, which is giving me a pain to remove. And this one right here, which I haven't attempted yet. But I already broke a bolt here, trying to remove this bracket. And this one is just annoying to get off also because there's one missing bolt hidden behind this cable here. And it's hard to get to from just this angle under the car. So I just have to remove this part right here. Heat shield I'm gonna cut, which I'm gonna show you that right now with a saw, because the bolt right here is completely rusted and it's probably gonna break. So I'd rather just cut it right there with the saw and remove the heat shield and get that out of the way and see if I can get the header out without having to remove these brackets here, because they're becoming a pain. So let me just cut this heat shield and then get to the bolts on the top to remove this header. So I cut the header heat shield, it's right here, with the saw, which I have right here. I just placed it right there in the middle and cut it out. And let's see if I can remove it out of here. Let's see. Might have to go through the top area, but let's see if I can get it out from here. Yeah, it's gonna have to be from the top area. So let me get to that on the top. So what I had to do was remove this bracket, which basically has two bolts. Move it out of the way. Bend this bracket here. I took off the heat shield that was here. I also removed the heat shield that's covering this axle here. It basically covers it like this. There's three bolts, one here to the right, and one in the left, and then one on the bottom here in the middle. So that's gone too to get more clearance. This bolt right here broke, which is very similar to the one that was holding onto the heat shield. I also removed that bracket. There's the bracket that was holding onto here that we no longer need, that basically latches onto the engine. So that's gone. Now we have to go to the top to remove these 6 bolts. Well, there's 3 bolts and 2 nuts that are holding on to the header here, the stock header. And then we should be able to try to navigate it out of here. That's why I moved the bracket all the way to the right. And I'm gonna have to move this one right here by removing these 2 bolts and this bolt right here. And that should move a little bit to the left side. This is the cable for the shifting bracket, and then I should have enough clearance here to install the stock to remove the stock header and install the Skunk2 Alpha Header. But let's see. Let's go back to the top of the car and remove those 2 nuts and 3 bolts. All right, so we're gonna grab the 14 millimeter and remove the 2 nuts from the top. I'm gonna try to get to the middle bolt because again, there's 2 nuts and 3 bolts. Pause on the nut part. But yeah, we're gonna get to that. But first, I'm gonna show you the bracket that is for the axle. This is the bracket, and it basically sits like this. Sorry. Yes, it sits like this. You have to get to the first bolt here. 1, 2, and 3, and then you can lift it out. And for the heat shield, basically sits like this. You could get the 2 from the top here, from behind the engine. And then the bottom one here is where I had trouble. It wouldn't grab with any of the sockets. So I just grabbed between the header and the heat shield, and I cut the bolt. Basically, that's where this is all smooth. So put that to the side there. So yeah, let's get the first one out here. Trying to see if I can get an angle from this side better. And that's 3. So we have 1 bolt, 2 nuts, and moving on to the next thing. So in order to get to the other 2 bolts, we have to do it from the bottom of the car. Hopefully everything goes well and we could get the stock header out. So let's get that from the bottom of the car. Let's bring it to a different angle down there. All right, so we're back on the bottom of the car. You have to continue going from the top to the bottom, from the top to the bottom, finagling different things out, because the H-Gen Civic is very difficult to work on because it doesn't have a lot of clearance when it comes to the engine bay or below the car. So I'm gonna try to get to the 3 bolts, or the 2 bolts actually, because I took off 2 nuts from the top and 1 bolt from the top area, which is in the middle. And now I have to get the 2 left and right from the bottom. So let's see if I could get that out. I do see them, and let's see how difficult they're gonna be to get out. Might need extensions. Just in case, I have my cheater bar. These are, in fact, 14 millimeters. Yep. Let's try to see how I can get this out. And there's one. And now we gotta get the next one out. Whew! Yeah, working from the bottom of the car, definitely not easy. Let's try the other one. Last one. So header should come out. Let's see here if I could get it out from here, from the bottom. And header is out. This is what the header looks like, and we'll get a closer view from away from under the car. Whew. Oh man, this is a lot of work. All right, get this gasket out here so we could enter the new one. This is the gasket, the old one. Man. All right.